Hey fellow freelancers, Johnny5 Alive here. Welcome back to another Anthem video. We have some good news here today. I was searching around Twitter to see if anything has changed with the 1.04 update in terms of a hotfix that they were promising yesterday. And literally as I was refreshing, this tweet popped up by Andrew Johnson. The team has released a couple server-side fixes to address loot in 1.04. One, you should now receive your guaranteed Masterworks items at the end of strongholds. And two, you should now be able to pick up loot for yourselves instead of being picked up from your squad mates. So this is very good news indeed. However, I think one of the bigger issues is the fact that Masterwork Embers were taking the place of legendaries and Masterworks in chests as well. That is one big complaint that I am seeing on Reddit, and some people were calling it a shady nerf to loot. So I was hoping to see something addressed here with the chests. Hopefully there's more hotfixes coming in the future. But we have a lot more to talk about here today, so stay tuned and let's get into it. All right, so this hotfix is just in as of a couple minutes ago, so I have not been able to get in and play it myself. But I did play for quite a bit yesterday. Obviously, I discovered that I was not getting anything from GM2 strongholds, but there are reports in both my comments section and on Reddit of people getting loot from strongholds. But that is generally the RNG of the game. Some people get nothing, and some people get everything. 20 legendaries a freaking minute. It's insane how lucky some people are. So, this little patch here, or server-side patch, should address the stronghold thing, at least making the bosses a little bit more appealing. So that is definitely good news, and I'm excited to get back in because I was really having a lot of fun with the 1.4 update, or 1.04 update, and it's looking pretty good in terms of the changes to the javelins, and there's a lot more I want to test, such as the legendary missions. So I played pretty hard yesterday, and I'm looking to play some more today, and this should incentivize us all. But I do feel like there still needs to be a few more things addressed here. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Are you noticing anything different with the chests with the materials added in? Because I have heard reports where people are saying that chests feel less rewarding than they were before. Anyways, moving on, I want to go over a nice little read that I found on Forbes, posted by Paul Tassi here, Anthem's buff/loot patch review. I have good news and bad news. So let's get into it. I'll have a link down in the description below if you want to follow Paul Tassi or read the article for yourself, but let's read what he has to say about the 1.04 update. I spent most of yesterday trying out Anthem's new patch, which was supposed to be both buff javelin power and loot drops, as well as introduce a number of new quality of life changes to the game. If you check in with Reddit, the community is currently screaming its heads off about how this is the worst patch in history and everything is way worse. I think they're overreacting. Yeah, there are a few things wrong with this patch, so we'll get those out of the way first. The first issue I thought was sort of funny. Other players can now pick up loot for you, as in if a player runs over the spot in the map where the loot has dropped for you, even if they can't see it themselves, it will go in your inventory. I thought this was a purposeful change in order to make sure you don't miss drops, as this could get you, say, a legendary you missed because the mission clock ran out or a glitch stuck you behind a wall, but it turns out this is an accident, and people were mad about it because I guess the contingent of players purposely avoid blue and purple loot while playing because it's just junk and they hate dismantling it, but now the game is forcing them to pick it up. Again, I find this hilarious rather than actually being a big deal, but that's just me. I have to agree with this. I thought I didn't really complain about it. I thought it was funny, and that was my comment on it. I was like, oh, that's funny, and I left it at that. But as I was playing further later last night, I was noticing that, like, I saw Masterworks popping up on the right hand side of my screen, and I was like, oh, there we go, someone picked up a Masterwork for me. That's good. I may have missed that one. So in some cases, I actually like that as a hidden feature, but because Reddit was screaming about it, and I think that's the problem with the game having so many issues, is when something like this occurs, people highlight it as an issue. Like, I think if everything was going well, it might have been received differently, but it's just pile negative on negative. If anything changes, it has to be turned into a negative with the way the community is looking at things these days. Everything is coming through a negative lens. So obviously Bioware sees that feedback and goes, we got to fix this ASAP. and they put it on their priority list, but I feel like that could have actually been left there, and other things could have been addressed a little bit faster instead. The other main issue is that people are lamenting the drops, namely that stronghold bosses no longer a guaranteed masterwork like they used to. This, however, is not an issue I've seen crop up often. In 5 strongholds I ran yesterday, I only saw one instance where the boss never dropped a masterwork, but in another instance he dropped 3, which used to be impossible. And in theory, they can now drop legendaries. I agree bosses should continue to drop at least one guaranteed masterwork, but again, not a huge issue. Again, it comes down to RNG. It sways so heavily from person to person. So there's probably some of you guys out there that are like, I'm getting 5 legendaries every time I run the boss, you know? Some people report some wild and zany results, but it's not consistent. That's the point. It needs to be consistent. Sometimes my party members get 5 masterworks and the rest of us get 0. And it's almost, we have this saying that it's like, it's roulette. Like the loot decides to pick a person for the run and say, I'm going to shower you only, and everyone else misses out. It definitely feels like the minority are getting lucky with loot. I do agree that the overall sentiment that this patch hasn't exactly started making loot rain from the sky, and this game is still not where it needs to be in that regard. I have noticed mild increases in loot from bosses and chests, but that usually just means an extra masterwork or 2. And I am at a point in the game now where 95% of masterwork drops aren't useful for me because of the limits on their power and rolls, and as such, I am only hunting for legendaries essentially. Yesterday, doing every activity possible in GM2, I received 1 legendary, my first non-pop-up pump weapon ever, Ralner's Blaze. Bad rolls, but the perks is good, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, considering A, legendaries are really all that matters at a certain point, and B, you still have to fight RNG to get slot item rolls you want, further buffs are needed. The Elysian chests have been another form of controversy, as players are saying that are not getting rewards from them, but I think the problem is that some of the items are only specific to javelins, so you have to dig through the forge to find them. I like the concept of these chests, and I'm having fun seeing the drops from them. Very, very obviously, we want to see them contain armor eventually, but even right now, it's bizarre. You get drops as literally just a list of their names. In the final mission screen, you don't even see a picture of what the drop is. How hard is it to make like 100 JPEGs to put in the game for the items? Yeesh. One thing I agree with the community on is that there are just too many damn crafting materials jammed into chests, both regular and Elysian at this point. Crafting is literally pointless in Anthem outside the occasional boost you might want from a consumable, but that system is too much of a mess to bother with half the time anyways, or maybe trying to re-roll one masterwork gun you like until you get a legendary to replace it. But the sheer amount of crafting materials you get makes it seem like this is the most important system in the game. Very obviously, it's the most useless. I have to absolutely agree, and the fact that they said, oh, we're bringing in a masterwork embers into chests, it just got me concerned, because it's like, I don't want masterwork embers. I'm already chucking all the masterwork items I get, and they're turning into embers at this point, so it's a little bit concerning. And now that basically masterwork embers are popping out, and you're like, oh, I got a masterwork. Nope, it's an ember. It only makes the loot system feel worse, and I think that is part of the complaint right now as well. I am mixed on legendary missions, which do in fact have all the problems I envisioned. They are long and made longer by the fact that they have cutscenes that you can't skip in them. Both times I ran missions took 30 to 45 minutes. I was rewarded with a single masterwork. Feels like the least viable farming option right now behind free play, contracts, and strongholds without more opportunities for drops. And I did not get to try the legendary missions. I didn't bother with it because I wanted to farm the keys, and we were farming keys. We kept on cycling new people in to do legendary contracts, to go into the strongholds to get as many caches as we could, and that was our focus. So we went from legendary contracts to tyrant mines back and forth all night. Legendary missions is something I'm going to try, but I did call it. I said that people are not going to like this. It's going to take too long. You can't skip the cutscenes. The fact that it's one random mission a day, you can't choose. People want to play through the game like a campaign. Imagine for a second that you opened up the the legendary missions menu and you saw a campaign screen. Mission 1, Mission 2, and they have these beautiful thumbnails reminding you of what you did on those missions, and you saw this whole critical path, but the rest of the missions after the first 6 are all grayed out, saying coming in Season 2, coming in Season 3, and the game slowly unlocks itself, and you could select the missions you want or play them in order, or maybe you get a bonus for playing through them, like 5 consecutively. Some sort of system like that, like a Halo campaign. I think that would be much more appealing to people, and if you want, you could queue up randomly. So that's how I feel about it. But now the good news. There are a lot of positive changes in this patch, some having to do with the quality of life, like the ability to go into the Forge without loading screens, hallelujah, but most have to do with Javelin power. I noticed yesterday when the patch notes were released, the game both A, claimed to fix health bug in this patch, and B, buffed like 80% of components and gear in game, and the results are absolutely noticeable. I ranted about this yesterday, you guys. It is absolutely noticeable. I am loving the Interceptor combo queen. I'll have to make a separate video for this, but it's literally cash register. It's just cha-ching, 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 just combo after combo after combo. It's so much fun, and everyone that I was playing with were reporting that their classes feel awesome. My buddy Synchros, who I play with often, he switched to the Interceptor because the Ranger was sucking previous to this patch. He wasn't that great, and he went right back to the Ranger, and he's reporting how much fun it is, and he's doing a lot of damage. So there you go. The visual part of the health bug is still happening despite the allegedly fixed, but means your health bars will still fluctuate all over the place. But it does seem like your armor is at a consistent level, and I do not find myself being one shot in GM2 anymore like I used to be randomly all the time. Yeah, I feel like GM2 is pretty balanced. I'm tearing through it. I die once in a while, but it's just me playing risky and being stupid. So in general, between buffs and health damage, GM2 now feels like GM1 used to. I have to agree with this. And while only my Colossus really thrived in that difficulty before, now all 4 classes feel viable there. Interceptor still risky with the melee focus build, but you die way less now and do much more damage. Colossus is still strong now, even stronger with a few specific components buffed. Ranger is the class that has totally transformed by these buffs. He is essentially now Storm, as a few of his components let him hover forever so long as you keep hitting shots. And I am loving the changes to things that like Seeker Missile that auto refills on combo, or components that applies acid and therefore primes and your targets hit with 10 shots. He's gone from by far the least favorite class to possibly my favorite class overnight. I do want to add to this because he's saying that the Interceptor feels squishy and still risky. I was messing around with some stuff. I got a shotgun that heals you, and then I got the component that applies acid to prime, and basically you just shoot them to get your shields back, and then if your shotgun runs out of ammo, you could triple dash to instantly reload your weapon. So it's been a lot of fun getting in there, and if it's getting risky, you can heal up. You also have the throwing stars as an option. If you land weak point shots, it heals you as well. So the Interceptor has actually a lot of survivability, and in some cases that can make her the tankiest, especially if you run the shotgun and the throwing stars. You can basically never die. It's pretty insane. Storm needs the most work. Its elemental abilities are still just not as powerful as they used to be, and these buffs just didn't help it as much as the other classes. Also, it feels the squishiest out of all the classes, and now Ranger just feels like the most compelling version of it. Still work to be done on it here. We were playing with a Storm last night, and that was the person we had to res the most. So there you go. But yes, this patch has made the game better, not worse. All Javelins feel better to play. Loot drops are better overall, despite the specific issues, but they're still not as good as they used to be. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Drops are better overall, but they're still not as good as they used to be. Am I reading that wrong? Anyways, the Forge change alone is life-altering, though obviously it shouldn't have been this way from the start. The loot changes for me are not better. My experience, the drop rate has been the worst it's ever been, but everybody has different luck. Anyway, the sky is not falling. There are some more lingering issues with the patch, sure, but it's not a disaster some are claiming. And if you jump in, you will probably see far more improvements than less. Long way to go still, but this is forward movement, not backward. And I think that's a great point. Even in my rant yesterday saying I'm so mixed, I was so mixed in my emotions because I'm loving the new patch, but I'm kind of furious that these things are slipping through the crack and the game is not being tested. I think I was more mad at the fact that things weren't tested. These are supposed to be big updates that are important, and a lot of the issues that people are having and a lot of the bugs like pilot error data, graphics cards not even being able to launch the game. There are a lot of issues with this patch that are not being outlined in this article because this specific person has not experienced those issues for themselves. Now, if you dig up on my Discord or Reddit, you'll see people just a whole list of more issues. So I have to agree that it's not the end of the world, and this patch does bring a lot better than it does worse, but the worst shouldn't be there to begin with. New things are cropping up, old things are still there, things that were supposed to be fixed are not fixed, and loot doesn't seem to be any better, but for some people it does, and it's just confusing. But it needs to become consistent. Overall though, I'm enjoying the gameplay more. I'm enjoying my Javelin more, and I'm really interested in trying out the Ranger now and messing around with some of his flight capabilities. So again, I want to end it off on a positive note. It's looking good. I think again, I was so hyped up in my, if you go watch my reviews for 1.04 and reviewing the patch notes, as well as the buffs for the Javelins, I was stoked, and a lot of my friends jumped back into the game because they saw my video. My enthusiasm and excitement actually got people playing again. Unfortunately, the positive videos, nobody watched in terms of the viewers. I think they broke like 5K views or less. I show off the broken loot, and gets freaking 30-40K overnight. It's just insane to me that when something positive happens to the game, nobody cares, but when something bad happens to the game, everybody wants to look at it. And I'm just like, well, 1.4 is actually really good, guys. Get in the game and have fun. So now that the fixes are in, or some of the fixes are in, and hopefully more to come, I think you guys should give it a chance. Get in there and have some fun, get some chests, and we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna go play, and I'm gonna come up with some video ideas and see what I can do here. And I'm looking forward to creating some content on 1.04, and I'm glad that the boss loot has been fixed. But we'll have to wait and see. I haven't been able to test it yet because the tweet was 3 minutes ago at the time of making this video. By the time I edit it and send it out to you guys, well, we'll have to find out. I'll try it later tonight. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna end off the video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more Anthem videos, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.